I just want to, first of all, say thank you, Dr. Guy Rickman, for joining us. I've known you for quite a long time, as some people may or may not know. We have our upcoming convention coming up here in the Illinois Prairie State Chiropractic Association, where we're celebrating 75 years of our Illinois Prairie State Chiropractic Association. So we wanted to have a really big, exciting seminar. And we sat around and said, who could we bring in? And you were one of the names that popped up right away. So, first of all, for those who don't know you, do you want to introduce yourself and tell them how we should know you?
Sure, I don't know how to condense 70 years into a couple sentences, but my dad was a 1947 grad from Palmer College. He and my mom set up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and my sister eventually took over that practice. So it's been running continuously every day since 1947. So I was a chiropractic kid from day one, graduated from Palmer, and then set up. One of the first things we did was produce the first patient education ever on video back in 1977 when only 10% of Americans had a VCR. So it was way out in front of that technology, which I think we're going to come up to when we talk about this convention coming up. Went on to build the largest management company ever called Quest. We had 7,000 clients, and then got the call from Palmer when it was experiencing some problems. And went to Palmer, and over 6 years, we rebuilt it to back to its original glory. I guess that's probably the easiest way to say. And then left there in some controversy, but left there and wound up at Life University, which was really in trouble. And then spent the next 16 years building really an amazing university with the largest chiropractic school, but 14 graduate and undergraduate courses, and great rugby team, and lots of work with the Dalai Lama. We had prison programs going on. That was quite an experience. So now working, people think that just because I'm not doing that anymore, I've retired. I'm actually working harder than ever. And we produced, given all the technology and AI and things that are coming, the last 4 years, we produced an app for doctors to handle all the things other than adjusting through remote patient management that people are confronted with today. And then doing a little work with RFK and some things on chiropractic, or not with him, but with the committees that are being formed, and doing a lot to help spread chiropractic throughout Europe. So it's what I'm up to at this particular point.
That sounds awesome. I grew up listening to those VCR tapes. I probably, if you put me in hypnosis, I could probably recite them word for word, as I'm sure. But we have this conference coming up, and you're going to come down and speak to us. And we're talking about, I talk a lot of our members about how to keep your practice current, keep it going up to date. We have a lot of our older members that go to sell their practice and they realize they haven't done that. So that's been a passion of mine as the president of the Illinois Prairie State. And that's one reason we wanted to have you come, because can you elaborate a little bit more on what you're going to present to us about this?
Yeah, we're going through a really dramatic time, probably like nothing in history. We thought when the internet hit, that was it for our lifetime, was the big breakthrough. But now we know, for example, just to make a point, that I just saw an interview with the head of NVIDIA, and they're estimating that within the next 2 years, 80% of all the current jobs in the United States will be gone. That's quite a that's quite a change. And one of the biggest industries is healthcare, where we're going to see this change, whether we want it or not. This is not something you can sit back and say, I don't want to participate. I just saw where they gave AI Grok 4, which is Elon's version of Chat GPT. They gave Grok 4 100 most difficult cases that were unsolved in medicine. And they then took a whole bunch of medical doctors and put them in a room. The medical doctors got 20% of the diagnoses right. AI got 90%. So it's going to be the current AI like Grok. If you, when it came out, which was not long ago, I'm stammering here because there's so much to cover, but when it came out, which was just recently, it took the SATs and it never had any introduction or awareness of any of the subjects that were in the SATs, and it scored 100% the very first time it took the SATs. You say, what does that got to do? They estimate that in any field currently, chat, Grok, et cetera, if you take all the PhDs in any particular field, any field, all the PhDs in the entire history of that subject, that information already exists that you have access to when AI is analyzing this. Just imagine what that means in a chiropractic office. It has more information about the spine, the nervous system, biomechanics, tissue density, tissue tonicity, et cetera, et cetera. It can take all of that information and analyze the spine instantaneously and tell you where the problem is. And it won't be technique specific, it'll be biologically and anatomically specific. And then shortly after, so it'll be doing all x-ray analysis, it'll be evaluating the spine. And then ultimately, there's no question that it'll be adjusting. They'll be developed. We already have instruments that adjust. They're just not localized into a technology. I just saw a car company now that has no humans working at all in the car company, and it produces an automobile on the assembly line every 77 seconds. On one hand, you could say, oh, that's dramatic. And they're saying all these changes are going to occur within the next 18 to 24 months. This is not something like in the 80s when we had great insurance and you could get $3,000 for an initial visit when a patient came in. And we always were told, oh, the insurance industry, they're going to cut that out eventually. And a lot of chiropractors didn't believe it. And it took a decade or two for it all to happen. We're going through the same sort of transformation with this, but this is going to be happening in months, not decades. So there's some awareness we need to get ready for. We can do best and worst case scenarios. Nobody quite knows how it's going to turn out. But we want to talk about how this applies to chiropractic principles, how this advances our profession, how what RFK is doing. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about what he's bringing to the National Institutes of Health, the CDC. And we'll talk about how that applies to chiropractic. And then we'll talk about how to get ready for the changes that are inevitably coming in the practice. And one of the things I will do, by the way, because I spend a couple hours a day studying AI, just getting prepared from my position for this kind of thing. In education, for example, almost there'll be very little classroom work ever done anymore in education. High schools and junior highs have already started to go to it where they're completely AI. And the students are just incredible. But anyway, one of the things I will offer chiropractors just free, just with some basic information, I can put it into some prompts that I've developed, and it will spit out for them a 6-month, 1-year, and 3-year plan on what they need to do in their offices to institute AI into their practices. And I can promise you, it'll save you time, it'll save you redundancy, it'll save you staff cost, all those kinds of things. And so we'll offer that up to the chiropractors that are going to come and attend.
Sounds good. I know my staff wish I could get my reported findings done faster. So for me to hear that the AI might be assisting me on that soon, I'll make my staff very happy.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
I've been
Oh, we
playing
just
with
did a
AI
report of
myself. So
findings.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, we just did a report of findings where there were 3 people in the room, the patient, the chiropractor, and ChatGPT AI. And jumped in, talked about various options along the way as the discussion was going on with the patient. So absolutely, it's going to impact reports of findings. There's no question about it.
So if I've been curious about this Chat GPT and this AI stuff, and I'm going to, of course, attend the Illinois Prairie State Fall Convention, I'm coming. Would you recommend everybody have an account or play with a little bit before they come? Just going on asking it silly questions just so they can see the look of it?
If you want to, there's a number of sites like that are free. Chat, I think, on the minimum level is $20 a month or something of that. So yeah, you could go in and you can put some information in. Not that we're going to trying to make people AI experts by the time we walk out of the room. That's not the intention of the presentation, but just to show how you can use this in your practice. Along with the idea of this is that it's going to free us up to see more patients and to adjust more and focus in on what we do. So I'll give you one example of for example, the app that we've developed, because this happens to chiropractors all the time in practice. A patient will get up off the table and say, hey, doc, my wife and I, we just found out we're pregnant. Do you think chiropractic is safe for her? I see kids out in the reception room. What's going on with that? Is there any research on this? And of course, the chiropractor's got a reception room full of patients. They stop, and now they spend maybe 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes explaining chiropractic and pregnancy and kids. And of course, in that time frame, you're going to do a terrible job, right? And the patient walks out with nothing more than a little bit of energy, and you're now a little bit behind. So, for example, now we have the ability when a patient gets up off the table and says, "Hey, doc, we just found out we're pregnant. What do you think?" I now can say to the patient, look, I want you to take your app and go to the natural birth section in the app. There's a 5 trimester program with Dr. Claudia Onrig, one of the profession's leading authorities in pediatrics. She'll take you through the 3 months prior to pregnancy, trimester 1, trimester 2, and 3, and then the 12 weeks after for mother and child for optimum health. There'll be research articles you can download. She'll talk about what's developing. She'll go through some of the tests that you might want to have along the way, et cetera. And if you have questions, then you can ask me when you come in. So I can answer that now in 45 seconds, and they have access to real in-depth data that they can do on their own through remote patient. It's called remote patient management. And we're going to talk about how to use that effectively in the practice.
I do a weekly podcast called Ask the Chiropractor. If you have a question about chiropractic, only a chiropractor can answer. It sounds like you've taken it, don't ask the chiropractor, but ask the chiropractic expert in that field of chiropractic. So you've taken it like 8 steps further than I just simply did.
Yeah, you know, what the first thing the patient does when they get into this, they fill out a 60-question questionnaire on the 6 pillars in or functional medicine, which are, it should be called functional health, not functional medicine, like neurointegrity, environmental toxins, cardiometabolic wellness, et cetera. And they get a lifestyle score. And then based on that lifestyle score, it lets them know what the next 20, 30, 40 years of their life are going to look like if they maintain that lifestyle. And if they choose, then there are programs that they can go in, everything from pre-diabetic program to autophagy to pregnancy to stress reduction to how to shop and make sure you're not getting bad foods. It actually creates shopping lists for you when you go to the store. The chiropractor now doesn't have to answer and deal with those kinds of issues, but they're important issues, right? Weight loss, all those things. And of course, if they do medicine, they're going to be told to take drugs and injections and things like that, as opposed to being able to handle these things naturally. So it's how chiropractors would handle all these issues if they had the expertise and time to do it, which we don't. We should be adjusting patients. That's what we're experts at. And instead of sending patients, because if you ask them, I'll give you one example. We had 25 patients in a focus group for a year in offices across the United States and Canada, different offices. So we found out a lot of things about what patients think about chiropractor and their chiropractor in particular. But one of the things they told us was we have more questions to ask our chiropractor, but we don't ask because they're too busy. They weren't mad about it. They just realized you didn't have time to stop and spend 20 minutes talking to them about whatever, intermittent fasting, which was what they were interested in that day, perhaps, right? We said, if you're not getting the information from your chiropractor on these subjects, where are you getting the information? Because they're still going to get information, right? They still want to handle it. And of course, you know what the answer was. It was WebMD and Google and Dr. Bill Gates. And of course, what we're doing by not answering the question is throwing them right back into the medical model. So this is a way for patients to handle these things remotely with the technology that they're all using today, which is app technology, so that your patients can have access to the questions they have. Once they understand chiropractic, they have questions, right? What do you think about drugs? What do you think about vaccines? What do you think about childbirth? And we don't have time to answer those. We should be adjusting patients, but we need to make sure they have access to the resources so they can get the right kind of answer.
Absolutely. Today and twice this morning, I can think of patients that said to me, "Hey, I'm sorry after taking up too much time, but I had these questions." I can think of 2 examples this morning. And I tell you, I love answering those questions. I love being able to give them the advice how I view healthcare, but I love adjusting patients even more than doing that. So the ability that I could give them the information they need to hear, but yet still have time to adjust 5 or 6 more people and keep everybody happy sounds like a win to
Yep.
me. So that's
And plus,
fantastic.
yeah, and plus there's a great way. We know the best kinds of patients are referral patients. And so there's a whole mechanism to do that. One of the questions we asked this focus group of patients was, do you ever talk about chiropractic and your chiropractor outside the office? We've always wondered, what do they say about us when they leave? Do they say anything to anybody? And I'll give you one example. There was one guy, and by the way, they all said yes. They all proudly said they talked about chiropractic outside the office. One guy who was the perfect example of the group, He said, I have lunch with the same 9 guys every day at work, Monday through Friday for the last 10 years. And he said, I told them the other day that and they know that I've had one headache a week for 20 years. He said, the other day I told them that since I've been seeing a chiropractor, I've had no headaches any longer. And I said, what did they say? And he said, my best friend said to me, he said, I've been thinking about seeing a chiropractor. I just haven't gotten around to it. I said, so what did you tell him? He said, and he was so proud, right? He said, I told him, you ought to see my chiropractor. He's really cool. In the conversation, he didn't know how to refer to the office, right?
Yeah.
And so now there's a way with app technology that when a patient or a prospective patient shows that interest, you just take out your phone, which everybody is holding right there, whether at a party or dinner or whatever, and you put in the patient's name, right? You put in the patient's name, and the next time the staff comes into the office, all the referrals for that time frame are there. And they've even told you, because they can check this off, how the patient wants to be, a prospective patient wants to be addressed. Like, I'm going to bring them on my next visit. It'd be great if you'd send them some literature, have the doctor call them. And so immediately we can respond to the prospective patient in a format that they want. And
Hmm.
we found that offices are increasing their referrals, 5 to 10 new referrals every month, just by patients having access in an app to be able to refer people.
I like that idea of being able to pick how you contact them because today some people want text, some people want email, some people want to call, some people want you to show up.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's a really neat feature.
Yeah.
I can feel your energy. I can feel you're excited to come hang out with us and get to meet a lot of these Illinois chiropractors. And we're celebrating 75 years of our Prairie State. We're excited to highlight our original members and excited to have you be a part of that. It's really a compliment to have you there. So if you're thinking about coming to this conference, here's your sample, here's your taste. Love to have you come. And I never finished talking. I'm doing online stuff without giving my guests the stage one more time. If you have any other final words you'd like to share with us.
Having realized it's the 75th anniversary, I was born the same year that the association was formed, right? So this was probably meant to be. We have a lot of work to do. Every health statistic in the United States is on a downward spiral. If Kennedy has done nothing else, he's emphasized that particular issue. And for the first time, I never thought I'd see this in our history. For the first time, the door is opened up to us and our philosophy and our way of thinking of everything from adjusting to vaccines, right? A to Z. Everything has opened up because COVID, the one great thing about COVID was people realized they'd been lied to, that they'd been taken for advantage of, that their businesses were shut down, their kids were traumatized, and all of a sudden they were able to listen. Their listening turned on to our message. And so we need to take our basic principles of spine and nervous system, make sure they're updated, make sure we can communicate those in effective ways, make sure people have access to them in technology and forums that they're used to using day in and day out. And if we do that, it's an amazing time for chiropractic, for our philosophy, our science, our art, and our communication and education of patients. So I'll be happy to come and contribute what I can to that conversation.
I can't say that better myself. So we're going to go and wrap it up. Looking forward to seeing everybody here the last week of September in Downers Grove. It's going to be a great conference. Keep checking in. Other chiropractors, I like that word subluxation and adjust in that way. Refer them to us. Bring them in with you. If we talk about referring patients, refer some chiropractors to this conference. It's going to be a great time. We're going to all be hanging out together afterwards. That's the thing about in-person conference. We're actually going to shake hands and sit next to each other and enjoy each other's company. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. And I can't wait to see everybody in September 26th and 27th. Thank you.